Morning, everyone. Bon matin. I'd like to again start off by thanking all of the frontline healthcare workers who are working around the clock to keep Canadians healthy and safe. My mom was a nurse, so I know some of the anxieties that frontline healthcare workers go through, and especially during these difficult times when there are concerns about the availability of medical supplies and things like that. Conservatives will continue to press the government so that doctors, nurses, and other essential workers have access to the critical medical supplies they need to do their job. La pandémie de COVID-19 touche les Canadiens partout au pays. Plus de 4 millions de personnes ont perdu leur travail et se demandent comment elles vont mettre à manger sur la table et payer leur loyer au cours des mois à venir. Notre caucus conservateur travaille fort pour offrir le soutien dont les gens ont besoin le plus rapidement possible. 2.5 weeks ago, MPs passed the government's emergency legislation to get help quickly to Canadians. That same week, the Prime Minister completely changed the policy, and now the House needs to sit again to pass another emergency bill to fix the first. This is, of course, a frustrating situation, and Canadian workers and small businesses need help now. C'est exactement ce qui arrive quand on cherche à contourner le rôle du Parlement. Nous reconnaissons tous qu'il faut agir rapidement pendant cette crise. Mais s'il n'y a pas de débat, pas de discussion et pas de possibilité pour l'opposition de poser les questions, il est beaucoup plus difficile de parfaire les mesures législatives et d'obtenir de meilleurs résultats pour tous les Canadiens. Unfortunately, the situation we find ourselves now in is exactly what happens when the role of Parliament is circumvented. Well, we can all agree that there is a need to move quickly in this current crisis, when there is no debate, no discussion, and no opportunity for regular accountability and questions from the opposition. It makes it that much harder to perfect legislation and deliver better outcomes for all Canadians. Conservatives support measures that the government has announced to get real help to people affected by this pandemic. But we continue to hear from our constituents about significant issues and gaps with the government's implementation. Programs taking days or weeks to get up and running, small business owners who don't qualify for the wage subsidy, Canadians who have received EI and CERB payments and are worried about when the extra money will be clawed back, hurdles to people working part-time while receiving these emergency benefits. All of these issues need to be addressed. We have put aside our partisan differences. We have proposed meaningful solutions, such as rebating the GST to small businesses that have collected it, increasing the charitable tax credit for charitable giving, making it easier for businesses to qualify for the wage subsidy. Le Premier ministre a dit, croyez à nos institutions démocratiques et le Parlement et les partis de l'opposition ont un rôle essentiel à jouer. Il faut donc assurer une surveillance et améliorer la transparence. Now is the time for parliamentary oversight and increased transparency measures. That means regular opportunities for members of Parliament to question the Prime Minister as we normally would. Et ça signifie que les comités parlementaires doivent se réunir régulièrement pour que les députés puissent présenter des motions, convoquer des témoins et interroger les ministres et les autres fonctionnaires. The best place to provide that oversight and accountability is in the House of Commons. Now, the Prime Minister has called for a Team Canada effort and said that all of us in Parliament must work together, and Canadians need to see us doing just that. As I said in my letter to the Prime Minister, the Team Canada approach to this pandemic must include opposition parties. It must also include scrutiny and accountability, because that is what will get the best possible results for Canadians. L'approche Équipe Canada de cette pandémie doit inclure les partis de l'opposition. Elle doit aussi assurer une surveillance et une responsabilisation. I hope that the government will work with us to address several outstanding issues before the House returns so that Canadian workers and small businesses can quickly get the help they so desperately need. Les conservateurs sont prêts à retourner à Ottawa de manière responsable, comme nous l'avons fait il y a quelques semaines, pour étudier les mesures qui offriront une aide véritable aux Canadiens et aux Canadiennes touchés par la COVID-19. We want to make sure that new powers or programs be directly linked to the pandemic and end when it ends. Conservatives have been part of the Team Canada approach since day one, putting forward a number of constructive solutions to improve the government response to this pandemic. We look forward to the government starting to implement our suggestions so that no Canadian falls through the cracks. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Happy to take your questions.
Thank you. If you have a question, please press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Si vous désirez poser une question, veuillez s'il vous plaît appuyer sur les touches étoile 1 de votre téléphone à clavier. La première question, the first question, is from Tom Korski from BlackRock's Reporter. La parole est à vous. Please go ahead.
Mr. Scheer, we see the Parliamentary Budget Office projecting a deficit this year of $184 billion. That's more than all personal income tax collections last year. It's not even close. It's more than 100% of personal income tax collections in what was a good year in 2019. Can you comment?
Well, at this stage, we're of course very concerned on the health and safety of Canadians. That is top of mind, making sure that we keep as many Canadians as healthy for as long as possible, prevent them from getting the virus, to maintain the capacity of our healthcare system. Second is the very real personal financial difficulty that so many Canadians, 4 million Canadians out of work as of today, that personal anxiety that they're going through, the very real difficulties that they're facing to pay their rent, put food on the table is also top of mind. Of course, the long-term effects of this are going to be very serious indeed, and it's going to present a great deal of challenges for governments of all levels. We were concerned about the government, this current government, the Liberal government, racking up multi-billion-dollar deficits while times were relatively good. We were warning them that we need to maintain fiscal flexibility for unforeseen circumstances. Of course, no one predicted that it would be a health pandemic like this, but there are already signs of a weakening economy. We were very concerned by those multi-billion-dollar deficits that now have left us with less flexibility as a country to deal with this crisis. As we exit from the health and immediate economic consequences of the pandemic, of course, Conservatives will be looking for and proposing ideas of how to get back to balanced budgets in a responsible way, so that Canadians can have the help they need when they need it, and the government can return and urge the government to adopt some fiscal disciplinary measures after the pandemic and after the immediate economic crisis is over.
I understand legislators have been canvassed for a possible parliamentary session as early as Saturday. I'm getting the impression from you that's not in the cards. Do you have an idea of what is the earliest date for recall?
We will be there whenever the Prime Minister recalls the House. We have signaled our willingness to support emergency measures to get help quickly out the door into the hands of Canadians. We want to make sure that the government gets it right. The prospect, the fact that we're going to be sitting in the near future is to fix the problems with the original piece of legislation. We certainly don't want to have a repeat of that, so we're making sure that the proposed bill does exactly what the government has said it would do, and that there are no surprises in it, as there was the last time that we were called back to Parliament. But I want to be very clear that the Conservative MPs, a responsible number of Conservative MPs, keeping in mind the health directions of public health officers, will be there whenever the House is recalled.
Thank you. La question suivante. The next question is from Andrew Lawton from the True North. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. Yesterday, your finance critic, Pierre Poilievre, had criticized the government for not having any of these business supports actually in the bank accounts of businesses yet. We know that a massive undertaking is at play right now, and the government is having to put this all together very quickly. What could your party, if you were in government, have done differently that would have gotten that money where it needed to be quicker?
Well, first and foremost, the idea of refunding the GST that has been collected already is an excellent way to provide much-needed infusion into small and medium-sized businesses. This is something that we've been calling for weeks now. The Prime Minister has indicated that it will take 6 weeks to get their wage subsidy program up and running. The GST refund could happen immediately. In many cases, companies are in the process of filing and remitting their quarterly reports. It would be very easy for the government to turn that around, to refund that immediately into the hands of small and medium-sized business owners so that they can pay their rent, so they can pay their bills and keep as many people working as possible. That's the type of lifeline that could have been implemented from day one. We're still calling on the government to do that. There are other options that they have in terms of the wage subsidy. There are models out there in terms of front-loading the benefits and processing the applications on the back end of things, working with financial institutions, working with existing accounts that businesses may have with CRA to make sure that money gets into the hands of small and medium-sized businesses. So we've been proposing these types of models for them to look at, indicating that we would be supportive of those types of things. If it requires legislative changes to do it, we'd be supportive of that. Our goal here is to get that money into the hands of the small and medium-sized business owners to keep people working for as long as possible, keep those restaurants and retail outlets and other types of businesses that have had a complete shutdown. They will not benefit from a wage subsidy. A restaurant that hasn't been open for weeks now many of them have no wages to pay, but they do need some kind of a lifeline to stay afloat and to ensure that there are jobs for people to go back to. So we've been proposing a range of these types of programs to help get people through this crisis, and we hope that the government takes us seriously. If a true Team Canada approach means taking good ideas from other opposition parties. We've put our partisan differences aside. We hope the government takes our good ideas, and we will give them credit for it when they do, as we gave them credit for when they increased the wage subsidy from 10% to 75%, something else that we were calling for. So we remain optimistic, but we need to see some action very fast.
We've seen reports from across the country of law enforcement enforcing these social distancing measures. There was a woman in Quebec who was given a ticket because her friends were singing happy birthday to her from the street. There was a teen in Cochrane, Alberta, who was ticketed for driving in a car with a friend. Someone in Ottawa was given a warning for playing with his 4-year-old autistic son in an empty field. Do you think these enforcement measures are going too far?
Well, not being familiar with the specific instances you mentioned, obviously law enforcement has to uphold the directives that have been issued from public health officers. We know there's always a fine line between ensuring that the public policy goal is achieved, the public good is achieved, and also balancing off common sense and traditional civil liberties that we have here in Canada. Every police officer in the country has to make those types of calls every day, even without a pandemic. So certainly not going to Monday morning quarterback law enforcement upholding law, and that's why we have things like judges, and people can appeal those types of things if they feel that in one particular circumstance or another the application hasn't been applied fairly. So I'll leave it to local law enforcement and to our courts and other institutions to make those type of determinations.
Thank you. The next question, la question suivante est de Hélène Buzetti de Le Devoir. La parole est à vous. Please go ahead.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Scheer. On comprend entre les lignes que vous posez comme condition à l'appui du projet de loi sur la subvention salariale que le Parlement siège en personne. J'aimerais savoir, trouvez-vous ça vraiment raisonnable et n'y a-t-il pas un risque que de frustrer la population et d'avoir l'air de bloquer l'aide qui est tant attendue?
Alors, permettez-moi de clarifier, nous ne faisons pas cette condition. Nous sommes prêts à appuyer les mesures que le gouvernement a annoncées. Point final. Le gouvernement, le Premier ministre lui-même a dit qu'il va prendre 6 semaines pour envoyer les subventions salariales aux propriétaires des petites entreprises. Le fait que nous devons retourner au Parlement de faire les corrections de le premier projet de loi est la preuve qu'on a besoin de le Parlement d'avoir le scrutin et la transparence. Alors, on fait des appels au gouvernement, on parle de le besoin pour les Canadiens d'avoir les meilleurs résultats, d'avoir des séances des chambres de communes, mais permettez-moi d'être très, très clair, nous avons annoncé qu'on va appuyer les mesures que le gouvernement a proposées pour les subventions salariales.
Alors, si ce n'est pas ça le problème, comment se fait-il que ça bloque encore? Comment se fait-il que le Parlement n'est toujours pas rappelé? Qu'est-ce qui bloque?
C'est le Premier ministre qui dit la date que le gouvernement va retourner. Le pouvoir reste avec le Premier ministre. Nous avons reçu le projet de loi il y a seulement à peu près de 48 heures. On fait notre travail, on assuré qu'il n'y a aucune autre chose dans le projet de loi, comme il y a eu la dernière fois, quand le gouvernement a ajouté beaucoup des mesures, les nouveaux pouvoirs, l'élimination de le scrutin parlementaire sur beaucoup des aspects de les pouvoirs. Alors, on fait notre job, on assuré que le projet de loi est concentré sur les subventions salariales. Et comme j'ai dit, on a déjà annoncé qu'on va appuyer les mesures et maintenant on assure que le projet de loi va faire ce que le gouvernement a dit.
Merci, thank you. The next question, la question suivante, est de Catherine Lévesque de la Presse canadienne. La parole est à vous. Please go ahead.
Oui, bonjour, M. Scheer. Pour continuer dans la même veine que ma collègue, on tente de comprendre qu'est-ce qui bloque exactement. Qu'est-ce que vous demandez exactement en termes de reddition de comptes?
Alors, premièrement, c'est important de répéter que le Premier ministre lui-même a dit qu'il va prendre 6 semaines avant que les départements, les fonctionnaires sont prêts à envoyer les subventions salariales. C'est le fait que le gouvernement n'a pas écrit un bon projet de loi la première fois qu'on a ce problème. Alors, il n'y a aucune... c'est pas c'est pas la faute de l'opposition qu'on doit avoir une autre séance extraordinaire de la Chambre des communes. On veut être assuré qu'il n'y a aucune autre chose dans le projet de loi. Nous parlons maintenant de à peu près de 80 milliards de dollars. Il y a beaucoup des faiblesses dans le programme que le gouvernement a annoncé, comme le fait que il y a beaucoup des entreprises qui n'ont aucune salariale à payer. Il n'y a pas beaucoup de flexibilité avec l'interprétation d'une réduction de revenus. Alors, on parle d'améliorer les mesures. Comme exemple, de donner les entreprises l'option d'utiliser les autres mesures, pas seulement revenus. Alors, en continuant de parler avec le gouvernement et de proposer des mesures qui vont améliorer pas seulement 7 projets de loi, mais les autres mesures que le gouvernement a annoncées. Mais comme j'ai dit, nous serons prêts à retourner sur n'importe quelle date que le Premier ministre décide.
Merci. Donc, juste pour clarifier, comment vont les négociations? Est-ce que vous seriez prêt à retourner en fin de semaine? Et ma question de suivi, c'est le Royaume-Uni, on va mettre sur pied un Parlement virtuel. Pourquoi le Canada ne pourrait-il pas suivre ces traces?
Alors, nous sommes prêts à retourner sur n'importe quelle date, si c'est cette semaine ou prochaine semaine. C'est important de se souvenir que le Premier ministre lui-même a dit que c'est peut-être cette semaine, peut-être prochaine semaine. Alors, même le Premier ministre a laissé la possibilité de les deux options sur la table. Alors, si c'est cette semaine ou la prochaine semaine, nous serons là. Nous va prendre notre rôle très, très sérieux dans cette crise, et comme nous le faisons toujours. Et c'est important de clarifier. Quand on parle de les séances en futur de la Chambre des communes, nous ne parlons pas de 338 personnes députées dans la même chambre dans une crise de la santé. Nous parlons d'une représentation de tous les partis d'un montant réduit en proportion de les résultats de la dernière élection pour assurer qu'il y a la transparence et responsabilisation. Quand le Parlement siège et les députés peuvent soulever les questions de leur comté ou de leurs citoyens, le résultat, c'est des meilleurs programmes pour les Canadiens. Et ça, c'est notre but. Alors, les séances virtuelles, le président de la Chambre des communes a dit qu'il n'y a aucune capacité aujourd'hui. Elle va prendre des semaines, peut-être. Mais on a besoin de le Parlement aujourd'hui. On a besoin de la transparence aujourd'hui. Alors, on ne peut pas attendre la Chambre des communes, l'administration de trouver les nouvelles façons. On a une Chambre. On a déjà montré qu'on peut avoir un nombre de députés réduire pour assurer que les Canadiens peuvent voir le Parlement, l'institution démocratique qui fonctionne pour avoir les meilleurs résultats.
Thank you. Merci. La question suivante, the next question is from Salima Shivji from CBC News. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Hi there, Mr. Scheer. I want to go back to the economic numbers and the staggering job loss numbers for last month and the projected deficit by the PBO, $184 billion. I feel like a lot of people can't really fathom that. You talked about the CBC, looking for and proposing measures to get over this once this is over. But how is it even possible to stem the tide and recover from a crisis of this scale?
Well, as a country, we've shown our resilience in the past. We've had crises in the past that we've bounced back from. It is concerning. But let me just make it very clear. Right now, we're still in the midst of the health aspect to this crisis. The primary goal must be to ensure that Canadians stay as healthy for as long as possible. If the projections are correct, and a significant percentage of Canadians are going to get the virus eventually. We need to make sure that happens over a period of time that does not strain or overwhelm our healthcare system. So that's rightly, as the government is focusing on, and different levels of government, that is job number one at this point in time. Very closely related is the very real economic hardship that people are going through. And so we support these types of measures. Even though they're big ticket items, we support them because through no fault of their own, many Canadians are out of work and facing increasingly difficult financial situations. So we are supportive of these measures in the short term. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take a lot of innovation. It's going to take this government to change some of its policies that they've embarked upon in the past, because every single country is going to be in the exact same boat that we will be in. And we will be fighting and competing with countries around the world to get investment dollars into our country, to revitalize our economy, to get people back to work. So we will have to start having conversations about how we can have a much more competitive tax system, much less and much fewer regulations that block investment from coming in. We are going to have to talk about how we can kickstart big projects that are already on the books. And those conversations will happen. We'll be proposing concrete solutions when the conversation gets to that. Right now, as I said, we're focused on the healthcare component and the immediate needs of individual Canadians who have been affected by this crisis.
Thank you. La question suivante. The next question is from Stephanie Levitz with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Good morning, Mr. Scheer. So our understanding was that the government was not going to send the letter to the Speaker to recall the House until it had all-party agreement that the bill was going to pass. So the question that I have for you is, have you given that agreement to the government? And if not, why not?
Well, my understanding is that after the government provided opposition parties with the legislation, that every party is going through it. We're certainly going through it, making sure that it has nothing unexpected in it. Last time they called us to the House of Commons, we were surprised by many measures that had nothing to do with helping Canadians and more about eliminating parliamentary scrutiny and oversight. This is a very important issue. It's a very important measure. It's over $80 billion when all these measures are packaged together. There's a significant amount of money, and we have already identified some gaps and shortcomings that we would like to see addressed. So we're in conversations with the government. We're proposing ideas. But as I said, we support these measures, and we want to make sure that these get out the door quickly. So we're hopeful that the government takes these into account. It's important to remember that the Prime Minister himself said that it didn't matter to him if the House sat this week or next week, because it would take 6 weeks to get the program up and running, and that work had already started at the departmental level, that the Canada Revenue Agency and other departments were already working on this in advance of the legislation. So these kinds of conversations between the government and opposition parties right now is not having an impact on the timeline in terms of when people will receive the benefits. And these are important conversations to have to make sure that we can get the best results for Canadians, and we don't have to come back and do another do-over as we are talking about right now.
I wonder, when you say ideas, if you mean, sorry, I got to follow up. When you say ideas, do you mean ideas, or do you mean you're demanding amendments to the bill and you won't consent to it unless those ideas are part of the bill?
I would categorize the conversations as very constructive. We've proposed certain measures. The government has indicated that some of them, they've taken under advisement. They've proposed some language back and forth. This is the type of normal conversations that go on all the time when governments are trying to collaborate with opposition parties. So I would characterize them as constructive. We would like to see certain things adopted. For example, the fact that many small businesses have identified that a very strict definition of a drop in revenue will preclude a lot of businesses from qualifying. We've proposed the idea that they could look at other types of metrics, like a drop in orders, a drop in accounts receivable, things like that. There are other metrics out there that we think it should be expanded to be more flexible. We've also pointed out some people who won't be eligible for the wage subsidy at all, and hoping that the government will signal that will be addressed in the near future as well. But I would characterize these conversations as constructive, certainly constructive on our part, and we're hopeful that the government listens to the good ideas that are coming from all opposition parties, and also adopts measures to ensure that the expanded power and expanded authorities that are being given to the government end when the health pandemic ends. We don't want to see this crisis lead to powers that the government never had before, continuing on past. So, we're having constructive conversations, and I'm optimistic that we're going to come to a resolution that will see these benefits flow to Canadians. But again, the Prime Minister himself said that it will take 6 weeks to get these programs up and running. He speculated early on that the House could sit this week or next week, and that either scenario is fine with him. And these negotiations are not holding up, not having an impact on the timeline for when Canadians will receive these benefits.
Thank you. Once again, please press star 1 if you have questions. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas à appuyer sur l'étoile 1 pour toute question. La question suivante, the next question is from Campbell Clark from the Globe and Mail. Please go ahead. La parole est à vous.
Mr. Scheer, you said yourself we're in a sort of crisis situation. If you look at the projections, it's going to last a while. So you talked about how we can't wait for a virtual parliament in 4 weeks or more. So the first part of my question is, are you willing to think about that for later? And the second part is, your party is asking for 4 sessions a week in person. Do you think it's reasonable to sort of stick to that? Are you willing to sort of make a private compromise for fewer sessions, less often?
Well, first and foremost, I'd say we are supportive of the idea of virtual sessions in addition to in-person sessions of the House of Commons to allow for members who won't be traveling to Ottawa, to allow for broader participation from members of Parliament from around the country to be able to hold ministers to account. We believe that this can be an additional tool to help Parliament play its role. I will point out that the Prime Minister and many ministers provide daily or several times a week sessions with the media and with the public in various formats. We believe it's entirely appropriate that the House of Commons be put on that same level, and that the House of Commons is a forum for that accountability as well. Opposition members from every party, including Liberal members of Parliament who aren't in the government, have the right and have the obligation to bring up questions and to convey concerns that they're hearing from their constituents, and the House of Commons is the place to do that. Obviously, we would like to see as many of those sessions take place as possible. We recognize that in a crisis like this, that there are hurdles and there are reasons why all 338 members of Parliament can't return. We're not suggesting that. We're suggesting a proportion of parties based on their normal standings in the House of Commons. If the government has a counter proposal, if they have a rationale for why 4 sessions a week are not possible, we're open to hearing that rationale, and we're open to hearing alternative measures. But this is something that we believe will benefit Canadians. And at the end of the day, this is what this is all about. You get better results when you have a second set of eyes go over the legislation, go over the measures. You get a better bill. You get a better program if opposition parties can highlight concerns, can challenge ministers on why certain measures have or have not been included or designed the way they are. That means that Canadians will get quicker and better results if Parliament can have these types of sessions. That is the motivation behind our asking the government to agree to these types of accountability sessions.
As a follow-up, Mr. Scheer, have you had a counter proposal from the government, and what is it?
I participate in negotiations through the public. There's good work being done right now by all the opposition House leaders and the government House leader. I think, from my perspective, this is a constructive exercise that's going on right now, and I have full confidence in my House leadership team to put the concerns of the Conservative Party and to find a solution that all parties can find that common ground and come together on. So I'm an eternal optimistic. I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to find a path forward on this.
This concludes the press conference. Thank you so much for attending.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci. The conference has now ended. La conférence est maintenant terminée. Please disconnect your lines at this time. Veuillez s'il vous plaît raccrocher votre ligne. Thank you for your participation. Merci à tous les participants qui se sont joints.